He hasn't aged a bit. He still look the same.
Yeah. All right, we good. We're live. Welcome, 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 Facebook. Good evening. This is Kiana Howell from Empower to Heal. We're here for our final night of our conversations with Lady Q, talking about mental health matters. We address different topics and that, to kind of help integrate mental health so that we can help you guys understand that mental health affects us in all areas of our lives. So, Monday night recap, Desmond and I talked about mental health in men and the importance of men becoming more open and receptive to seeking mental health intervention, not necessarily because you're, quote, as they like to sometimes label, is crazy, but just because you want to be able to maintain good mental health and heal from anything that you may be dealing with that, could hinder you in your progression in life and in having healthy relationships. Day two was with Davon Byers. We talked about mental health in our youth and how it impacts our youth and just the youth crisis that's happening right now. Yesterday was the talk with my dad on the importance of the absence or the presence of fatherly role and how that impacts your mental health as well for our youth or even adults long term. So tonight we have Mr. Kenya Cook, who's also a fan.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
yes, so we go way, 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 way back.
Way back.
That childhood season from Detroit. And so Kenya definitely comes from an awesome family. He is a fourth generation community and education leader, an e-commerce entrepreneur. He is the co-host of Infinite Think podcast. He's also the CEO, sorry guys, CEO of kcook1911.com, which is a distributor of healthy food supplements. He also develops motivational content for various social media platforms. So anything you need, Kenya, for sure he can cover whatever you need, food, social
What you need?
Asian community,
What do you need?
whatever. You can do it all. Welcome
I got it.
to everyone.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. As you stated, we go way, way back. And what's beautiful about, as you know, you used the word season, is that we've had a chance to see many seasons over the years to see everything to kind of evolve. And now we're at a point that we are the generation that our family, our parents were before us, and it's our time to move forward. So this is an honor to be here. I'm excited about the discussion that we're going to have, and hopefully somebody gets something good out of it, because I'm looking to get something out of it myself. So I'm coming into it with expectation and hope.
Yes, and that's good because I do believe a lot of people were getting some good information. They were learning more about mental health, and then, like I said, how it integrates with our day-to-day issues that a lot of people kind of separate the two. A lot of people have stigmas when they hear the words mental health. They automatically think of stereotypical or stigmatic perspectives of mental health and automatically doom it and make it to be all about psychosis. And yes, that's part of it, but everybody does not have psychosis. Everybody is not bipolar.
That's right.
So it's important for us to know that just as well as we take care of our physical health, we have to take care of our mental health. And so it's not about getting a diagnosis. It's not about being put on medications, but it's just maintaining good mental health from a day-to-day practices. What are the things that you're doing to maintain good mental health as far as your moves, and just during the daily life challenges. The main thing that we're going to be talking about this evening are the social justice issues. A lot of things are happening right now with COVID-19, all the racial tensions. This is an election year. And so we are watching people literally be traumatized in different ways. And so a lot of people have developed anxieties, they have developed fears, some people have developed depressions just in these recent months in response to our world and country's issues. And so it's important that we again talk about what are those issues that we're facing and dealing with, and how can we keep ourselves stable, keep ourselves at peace, and keep ourselves functional so that we can continue to create our own norms that are healthy and productive. So, Kenya, what are some of the things that you think, for you is most outstanding? I know you have a podcast, so what are some of the things that you guys are really addressing right now?
Well, first of all, I just want to recognize the speakers before Uncle Robert Howell, Davon Byers, and Desmond Hart. To be able to come behind awesome men with a great word, I just wanted to take a minute to recognize them and say thank you to them for serving in the community, and thank you to you for giving them a platform, giving me a platform so we can keep this discussion going, because one of the things that I'm doing is reconnecting. Reconnecting for me has been taking advantage of some of the technology, Zoom and a Duo and different platforms out there to kind of just connect with people who I haven't been speaking with. I'm in a fraternity, and my line brother, we've been talking more frequently because men sharpen men like steel sharpens steel. And because of the quality and the time of our relationship, it's easier to be weak. It's easier to let those thoughts out that you normally keep inside your head and you may not want to reveal. And I'm being a little generic. I try to be as transparent as possible, so I'm just opening that up. But, we just talk about things. So as men, using this time to just talk about how I feel with somebody who I feel comfortable with, I feel safe with. In addition to that, affirmations, I got away from my affirmations, and this got me back to it because, as you said, those anxiety, fear, depression, these things can jump into your head, and there are many voices and none without significance, but it's that small, still voice. So you can get these voices in your head with anxiety, fear, depression, and it'll drive you crazy. So going back to my affirmations helped me reset my mind, really taking it to I am great. I am also this day. I will be great. I would help someone. I would serve someone, pushing beyond just what I want, what I can get, but also talking about the service side of let me be a blessing to someone else during this time period. Because when I go through stuff, it helps me to help somebody else. So I learned a long time ago, Kiana, that if I'm having a tough day or having a challenge or something, go serve at a soup kitchen. Go walk through the cancer ward at a hospital. You can't do that these days, but back then you can go in there, and it quickly took your little ran out of chapstick issue and put it in a perspective of like, there's always something out there more than what you can bear. So be happy for what you have. So putting things into a different perspective, having affirmations, connecting with people, these are things that I found that have been helpful. And even in the format, we talked about the Infinite Think podcast, even in that space, doing like what you're doing, giving people a platform that are like-minded, that have a success story, that have a testimony, so that they can be a voice to different outlets, because we all have different audiences and there's a lot of intersections. So I think flooded with content, people may not connect with Infinite Think, but they may connect with Conversations with Lady Q, or they may like both. Who knows? Point of it is that we will have resources to direct people to, and we're not highfalutin people. We're not, getting paid to do this and this, that, and the third. This is just people who genuinely say, you know what? I have a heart to help. I have a heart to serve. And guess what? I got a camera. Guess what? I got some thoughts and some questions that I want to ask or I want to share. And then it just begins to grow from there. We had a wonderful session 3 weeks ago now, with Dr. Spencer Murray and with Reverend Royce Thomason Fletcher. And in that conversation, 3 men talked about the importance of us having these talks, getting it out of your head, reaffirming who you are. Once it's a process that we sometimes minimize. It's a process that we sometimes don't value how much it can change us, but it's definitely a process that I think is easy to begin to implement.
Yes. And, one of the things, part of my introduction in the early part of the week was that I know that I'm uniquely called to serve men in the capacity of mental health. And
Right.
so my success has been doing group therapy with men and just giving them that platform and that safe space to talk and offload. And a lot of times when they're sitting in that room together, they start to find that they actually have a lot of the similar issues and struggles. And then they're able to empower one another on how to overcome those things. And so
Exactly.
the part that you were saying about the importance of men having conversations with other men to help lift each other, to help encourage each other to keep moving forward. Because here's the thing for me, the priority for me is you guys are the kings, you guys are the leaders. So for me as a woman, I'm okay with being submissive to a man who is in stable mind, stable emotion, who can lead me, right? He has a clear
Right.
vision his life. He has a clear vision for his family, and then he
Right.
has a clear vision for the marketplace. So then he can go out and he can be effective in his home. He can be effective in the business board, in the boardroom. He can be effective in our community, so that you guys can be the ones who are standing in the front, leading us to, in the right path and the direction for change to actually happen. Because we are living in a crucial time right now with all the racial tension. We need some real strong leaders who are influential and because the reality is you got a lot of people who are trying to jump on the bandwagon. Oh, this is my time to get out there and promote myself and my brand and who I am, as but people are still not completely buying into them as this is going to be our new civil rights leader or community activist. So it's like we're still struggling to find those strong leaders. And I really believe that they're out there, they're unrecognized and unheard of, they're overlooked. And because for me, I personally know men who are strong, intelligent, have a lot of potential, and they have a story
Right.
that is relatable to tell people, hey, I know what it's like to endure this. I know what it's like to overcome that. So
Right.
I think it's important, like you said, to start. This is why we're having these conversations this week, because I wanted men to get to the point where they're comfortable having these conversations and understanding that this is just part of your role. You're not just here to just be a provider, but you're here, to live out your purpose.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's awesome because you know our family
yes.
and you know our background, and
Mhm.
it's no reason why you don't think that way and you feel that way, because that has honestly been our experience.
Mhm.
The other side of it, by me working in post-secondary education for almost 20 years now, and dealing with people who come from a wide variety of backgrounds, but many urban backgrounds, the examples of what to do are not always there. So when we're talking about men meeting and talking, empowering each other, there's a lot of different dynamics that I think have to be fleshed out so that we're more equipped. Because even in the sense that you have the male that's in that position, he's in the boardroom, he's doing everything, he's that guy, but he's not really a community leader, because after taking care of the job and the family, he can't lead the community. Now, good thing is we do have outlets, whether it be some kind of an organization or whatnot there, but now we still struggle with synergy between those organizations, so you can have critical mass and have great impact. And that's what we like for leaders to do for us, is that they galvanize people together. I look at when Lower and Upper Egypt came together, and they talk about the pharaohs that and the kingdoms at that time period. Many of the stuff, success of the union, came from the leader or from the leader saying, look, we have to find a common denominator that we all agree on. And if we can't agree on nothing else, we need to agree on that. For example, we might not be able to agree on the color of the carpet, but we should all agree that there needs to be a floor.
Right.
And then being able to build from that point by incorporating everybody's gifts and everyone's input as best as possible, then you begin to grow. So when I believe, when I'm talking to men about, hey, let's be as transparent, let's be open, let's talk, a part of it is understanding that we don't always have examples of how to do that. Now, that's an excuse, because in this day and age, you can go out there and find a virtual example. You can read a history book and find a virtual mentor. So these are excuses, but the good thing is that we're saying that they're excuses so we can sit back and self-assess. You know what? I was using an excuse. Let me take that off, and I can make Imhotep one of my mentors an example. I can make, if it's Jesus, if it's Marcus Garvey, if it's Malcolm X, if it's whoever's important to you, you can make those individuals your examples and then say, this is what I want my life to mean. But one of the other things that we're looking is that people have different attitudes about their life, their purpose, how they got here. Some people think they got here by accident. Mom and dad just kind of fell into bed together. Some people, feel as though, hey, I'm here for divine purpose and I'm the next coming of, sliced bread. Wherever you're at on that spectrum, you have to check your ego.
Right.
Because whoever you think you are, because many of us think more highly of ourselves than we ought to, we also want to have a spiritual anchor. We want to have some kind of something inside of us that really develops our true purpose, not just what we think it is. Because now, we're at an age now we're seeing people who chase money and they had all the trappings of life and all the toys, and like they're not happy. They say, but you got all the toys, and then you got people that got nothing, and they're happy as they could be, and then you got all of the rest of us in between. So making sense out of everything that's going on in the world for men can be complicated, and why I say that having that space and having those people you can talk to so that you can figure that stuff out. And guess what? I'm going to put it out there this way. Talking to each other is not cool. And the reason it's not cool is because I believe that it is a system of control to keep people out of synchronicity with each other, to keep people out of harmony with each other, to keep people out of working together. There's an intentional effort to say, no, we don't want that. We want you to have an individualistic mindset. Now that goes back to, one of the things about our current society in America, especially, that we're very individualistic, but we have problems that require a community. I know it sounds real close to communist. No, we're not communists. We don't want to go down that road. But unfortunately, the word has community in it. And it was a culture that said it takes a village to raise a child. So that's not individualistic. That's community. So men starting with, hey, let's work on, as you're saying, or you're talking about now, let's work on how we think. Let's renew our minds. Let's go ahead and say, let's retrain ourselves to look at what is my purpose? What is my role? Because they always say that once you get in your lane, you don't have to worry about other people because they in their lane, you in your lane, and it's no problems. It's only a problem when people get out of their lane and then their ego begins to dictate their reaction and responses.
Right. Because, one of the things one of my favorite sayings is, it's enough food at the table for everyone. So that even if I'm doing the same thing you're doing, it doesn't mean that we can't both be successful, because regardless, we're each still going to bring something unique to the table. So for me, I have no reason to get, intimidated by someone else that's an author or a speaker or a therapist or whatever, because at the end of the day, we all bring something unique to the table. And so working with my colleagues in the past, it always showed me that I can gain something from you. You can gain something from me just in our conversation and exchange. And then hopefully that will build each of us up to do better, to grow, and be able to take things to another level. So being able to collaborate with other people is very, very beneficial. The best parts of the therapeutic process that I've experienced with my clients has been when they are able to find real meaning in their life to then get in tune with their purpose. And then as they reprioritize things, and realize some of the things that they were chasing after didn't matter so much as the things that really matter, like their family, keep their family first. Putting education first, putting the community needs first, for some people, even their spiritual, supports. So it's whatever, becomes that priority to you. And I see them eventually push that chasing the dollar down the list, further down the list. And then they realize they're still going to have. They're still not going to lack anything because of them shifting those priorities. They actually will find that they'll have more. and that's something I had to learn personally. The more I push that down further down the list and focus more on purpose, the more I expand it in abundance. And so it's important for us to know that, yes, being able to go through your emotional healing, seeking supports to be able to process some things that are bothering you, whether it's from your past. And we talked about this on Monday with Desmond about, men being able to address things that may have stemmed all the way back from childhood. Understanding that relationships are not supposed to be your rehabilitation center, that you can rely on a woman to heal you, but you can pursue other supports and resources to go through your own healing. Again, that's positioning you and strengthening you for your kingdom mindset.
Exactly. And that what Desmond hit it right on the head. I think it was Sigmund Freud, who talked a lot about childhood traumas. Many people still deal with that, and they haven't really acknowledged it. For an example, personal story. I'm going to say, just be ambiguous because they're probably on Facebook watching this, so you know who you are. But I think about when I was younger and there was a person that, let's just say, they bullied me. Now, nowadays, they have all the anti-bullying laws and all that kind of stuff. Back then, you had to deal with it. You just had to figure it out. But I had a chance to talk to my bully within the last 5 years. And something that I realized was, I said, you know what? I did not really push my envelope of my personality, my interests, the things that made me unique, because then I stuck out. And whenever you stick out as a young person, you become a target. So I'm sticking out, and I'm like, I'm an easy target. So then I began to suppress things because I just want to fit in, and never realizing that you get good at suppressing who you are to fit in. And then you look up one day and say, what the heck am I fitting into? I don't want to fit in this. This ain't comfortable, and now you got to backtrack it and then figure out, okay, where did I get off track at, how, when, why? And many times, well, not many times, for me, that was just one incident, but it put me into a space of starting to think about other things that happened that we forget, that we push down, that we just didn't think of. So like you said, when you're talking to people and you're having a conversation, things pop up, you exchange, it's an interaction, and there's an energy exchange, and you never know what the benefit is going to be. But understanding who you are and asking questions and looking back at your childhood puts you in the mindset of, if something's not the way you want it to be, you have to take responsibility to change it, because more times than not, the system is not set up for you to be happy or your best. It's set up for you to fit in. And that's okay for some people, but unfortunately for most people, they ain't fitting in. And and it's a problem for them, and it's a problem for all of us. It's funny because I work in education, higher education. And one of the challenges, you think about, people pay all this money to go to school to get this credential so they can go get a job. You would think that's an automatic transition. You would think that, man, this is what you came here for. I know you ready to go get the job. And then you start trying to get the job, and people start giving you all the excuses and reasons. But point of it is that we don't always understand. We hear what people say that they want. We hear what they say they want to do, but not recognizing that something's missing that's stopping you from going. Now, with this conversation is more so about men, what is your go, no go? What is that thing that's holding you back? What's that obstacle? For me, it's constantly being aware that you're not where you want to be at, because I can get comfortable at my lower thresholds because I know how to survive. But if we're talking about living through purpose, you can't be comfortable. You got to get out of your comfort zone. But if you don't have people around you that's talking to you that way, or you're fleshing out your thoughts or whatever it may be, you get stagnant, you get stuck. And then, dissatisfaction, anxiety, fear, those things just come out of not knowing, when faith is supposed to be the evidence of things not seen. So this stuff isn't supposed to scare us. It's supposed to give us a new hope. It's supposed to get us into a different vibrational mindset. But, if you're not talking to people, or only thing they can tell you is about the latest sporting event, or what somebody in popular culture said, or something about a woman's body, they're going to be limited in how it can help you.
I think a lot of us are guilty of that fitting in, because I know all of us have done it. I even remember deterring for even pursuing, my initial goals that I wanted to pursue in high school for being a therapist. I detoured based on other people's opinions and what they was best for me at that time. And so I ended up going into the field of HR. And it wasn't until I went and navigated through, actually the waves of life, mostly the negative waves, that pushed me back to purpose. And so that's when I realized, you know what, this was something I was always born to do. It was always natural for me to love people, to want to help people, to love psychology. So for me, though, I do tell people, though, although I did not become a therapist at a young age as originally planned, I'm actually kind of glad now, because I feel like I'm better as a therapist now because I've lived life and I can integrate, my personal experiences heavily and become more relatable and easy to connect and more empathetic, because I can relate to a lot of things that my clients endure or face, and they're usually surprised. I was saying that the other night. A lot of people look at me like, "No, Kiana, you got it together. You a good girl," and I'm like, "You don't know what I have been through." We have a story, but you're right. I mean, being in purpose, you're not going to be, it's not necessarily a popular thing. That's why I keep identifying my calling as unique, because I know that for me, I'm not doing the popular thing. When I first got out there, when I first wrote my book, everybody wanted to put me in a certain lane of what they think I should be doing, the audience that I should be appealing to. And don't get me wrong, ladies, I love my ladies. I do work with my ladies. I do work with my team. But unfortunately, this is what I was called to do. And so I ended up getting stuck in a cycle for a little bit. In pursuing my purpose, I kept getting in a cycle of what everybody else thought I should be doing, trying to again fit in, trying to be accepted. But the reality is it didn't work out. And so I had to learn that, you know what, I have to be willing to just step out on faith and trust the process, trust the journey, and trust that whoever's gonna believe in me, they will, and whoever's not, oh well. It just is what it is. And so all will be well. And so I do think, this is a time where I'm finally stepping into my own.
Yes.
The same problem. This is what I'm called to do. This is what I know I'm purposed to do, and I'm happy with it, and I'm content, and it makes me better at it because it's easy. It is not difficult, because when you're trying to do something that you're not comfortable with, it's not, you're uncomfortable and you're unhappy. So a lot of times we do look at other things around us to then draw out happiness. And the reality is no one or nothing can make you happy until you choose happiness for yourself.
That's it. Yes, I think I always mess up her name, Ivana Van Sant. Ivana, I know I'm butchering her name. And I hope I might be getting it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was her that said it, that you have to fall in love with yourself. And I remember when I heard her say it, and they had the little nice music playing in the background, and you know how she starts like, "You must fall in love with yourself." And I heard it, I was kind of like, yeah, in love with self, got it. And you hear it, and then you digest it, and then it kind of sits down and it incubates, and then life begins to have situations that comes up, and you're like, you know what? If I had loved myself more, I wouldn't have done that. If I had loved myself, and then it started turning to, I love myself so much, I ain't gonna do that. Even during COVID, I have saved so
and
I hung out with lunch. I could be, having myself to do this, but it's as
kind of freezing up. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I think I lost Kenya. I'm sure he's gonna jump back on now. But I think, one of the things that, he's definitely, was trying to bring home again, just the importance of, making yourself happy. And once you're doing the things that you want to do or that you're called to do, at that point, you're going to attract happiness within yourself, and then you're going to attract other people. It's funny because I had a friend that, hold on. Okay, you got it.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. You know what? Huh? Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. I had a friend that sent me a video earlier about that, about the importance of finding happiness within yourself and not in other people. And the more you find it within yourself, the more you'll attract happiness as far as other happy people, other happy situations. Like, it'll naturally be drawn to you. And that's things that I do put in part of my healing regimen with my clients, both in my group and individual therapy, is let's talk about happiness and what makes you happy. And then if nothing makes you happy, let's try to work on finding something that does.
Oh, yeah, whatever stage you at, you better figure it out. But there's so much power in acknowledging what you have. One of the things that I, that's awesome about my girlfriend is this. What's awesome about her is that she knows exactly what she wants. She may not know exactly what she wants. She knows exactly what she doesn't like, and she knows what makes her happy. And in that space of knowing what makes you happy, I sat back and look at it. It's like sometimes, and for men or people, you have to be able to accept that you deserve to be happy.
Right.
That's a step for some people. Like, some people feel guilty if they're happy because it's kind of like, oh, I shouldn't be happy because other people aren't happy, or a bunch of crazy stuff. There's a bunch of crazy stuff. But starting with one, everybody deserves to be happy. Everybody. Now, not in it's assumed that we're not talking about deviant behaviors and whatnot that satisfies gratification. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that genuine, sincere happy. For some people, it may be when you sit down, or when you was a kid, Saturday morning cartoons and a bowl of your favorite cereal. It's like, boy, I am happy. So these emotions now, as we get older and more mature, and hopefully we're more in tune, we will seek those things that genuinely are unique to us, that fulfill us. And in more times than not, it probably doesn't cost a lot, but it also puts you in a space with other people who like doing that thing because it makes them happy. And it doesn't mean only hang out with people who do what you do, because then you'll never have diversity of experience. But there is something to be said about seeking your happiness, finding your happiness, because as you go through your day, it could be anything that could make you mad. It used to frustrate me when I used to manage a school in Bloomfield, New Jersey. And I used to hear the students. It was probably about 120 students. And with 120 students, I probably heard, I'm so angry, or I'm so mad, or I'm annoyed. I used to hear I'm annoyed probably at least 100 times a day, coming from different people. And I was like, why are you speaking this, why are you speaking this into your life? Well, you just don't understand. I don't understand what's wrong with you. I don't, but I do understand having a negative attitude about it ain't gonna make it better. I understand that part. So when we're talking about seeking that happiness, understanding not from a selfish place, but really saying, what makes me happy? Because I don't have to fit in with other people's definitions of happiness. I don't have to agree with what everybody else is saying, because trying to fit in could lead to that fear, anxiety, depression, which all is in that space of I'm not good enough. I'm not going to be accepted. Other people don't validate me. And there's freedom, especially as you get older. You don't give a damn what people care, what they say, what they think about, what they care. You don't care about that stuff because it doesn't affect you unless you let it affect you. And your happiness is still your unique journey. But thinking this stuff through is not always consistent, because we get caught up with people that want to talk about things and stuff and people. And that energy doesn't necessarily release you to your higher vibration. There's a book that I read a long time ago called Metu Neter. I read it back in 95. And inside of it, it just really talks about, just like even in the King James Bible, that elevation from our base animalistic level to elevating to our spiritual self. Our world and our society is not doesn't push people to elevate. Like people say, you got to pay taxes. People say you got to follow the law. You got to stop at the stop sign. You got to do all these things. But nobody says you got to go to the gym. Nobody says you got to go to the doctor every year. Nobody says you have to be the best person that you. Nobody says those things. They just leave that up to you. But the stuff that's important to them, they make that a mandate. So we have to be able to say, how do I make these things important to myself? Because if not, you're just chasing this. You feel like a battery. You feel used up. You know, it's frustrating to hear people work all day and come home like, whoo, them people. And I was like, well, I mean, I know quitting is probably not an option because you need the money, you know, but you're probably going to have to figure out either how you're going to change your perspective and your attitude or how you're going to change your situation. But because who wants to live like that?
Right.
You know, who wants to live in that space? And know for men, as we fight to be providers, we fight. I've seen some of my brothers fight hard working jobs that are actually below their abilities because it more so serves their comfort. And because it doesn't push them to their abilities, it serves their comfort, they're not truly satisfied and happy. And you know how that's going to affect your relationship. Because if you ain't happy, like people will say, what they say, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Nobody happy.
watch our house with an unhappy dad.
Right.
Watch our house with an unhappy dad. Because see, dad going to let y'all all be happy and he going to walk out. Guess what? Y'all all happy and he gone. So we got to be aware of how we deal our fight and flight, you know, reactions. You know, so these are things to talk about.
That's something that a lot of people are not aware of. I work with a lot of not just male clients, but Black men who fall in a cycle of addiction because of that. And the addiction is not necessarily, because like I said, we have this misconception of addiction is, that's the crackhead on the corner in the hood. But it's somebody who chooses to, I need to have 1 to 3 drinks every night when I come home to, quote, settle down or balance myself out or to deal with my household, take the edge off from the day. And it's like, it's okay to do that on occasion, but it becomes a daily habit and it starts to escalate and increase steadily because you're just finding that to be your comfort. Because at some point, let's say you're doing 3 drinks a night, at some point you become immune to that. So now you need to go up to 4, 5, 6, just to get to that, back to that high that you had in the 1 to 3. You know what I mean? So it's important that, like you said, either men are choosing to, okay, now I'm doing this to self-medicate because I don't want to deal with the children. I don't want to deal with my wife. I don't want to talk to my wife about what's really going on with me and how some things are triggering childhood memories that I still have yet to talk to anybody about.
Right.
You know? Right. So I want to kind of just transition a little bit, just even when you're talking about the fitting in and how with the current issues that we're dealing with right now, I'm seeing a lot of the social media bullying. And I'm seeing it from the perspective of, if you're not posting about this particular issue, like I've literally seen people like the George Floyd situation arose, and of course we had other, individuals that we were advocating for and trying to seek justice for. People felt like, you weren't posting about that every single day, a minimum of 2 or 3 times a day, or you weren't Black enough. You weren't really supporting the Black cause. You weren't really seeking justice. And so I'm like, okay, that's really not true. There's different ways that we can contribute to seeking justice. Because for me, I was telling people, my biggest focus is the system needs to change. We can do all the protesting and social media posting all we want, until the laws change, until the systems have changed, until there's been certain procedures and policies and procedures put in place saying that, police aren't allowed to do this or that. But I think that what I was seeing was you had those social media bullies, and then you had the other people who were reacting and responding and getting stressed out and upset. So it's like, okay, just not making this no better. It's just,
I'm sorry, my video dropped out for 1 second, but my audio is still good. Okay, you had, what I think about the Matrix. You remember the Matrix?
Yes.
And you had the Mr. Smith character that anytime when they were in the Matrix, Mr. Smith could become any human being.
Right, right.
So what I found out is that it's funny to me is that I could post something and people will begin to attack me as if my post was my original thought, as if it was something that I 100% agreed with, and they just went into automatic reactive mode of attack. So that kind of like, you know, when we talk about the group mentality, that group think, and we talk about fitting in and all that kind of stuff, that's another thing to check. Like people think they're supposed to automatically go in attack mode.
Right.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Excuse me. There's been some topics that we've had, and people would just be like just so dogmatic about the mainstream thought process that they never step back to say, wait a minute, do you really feel that way? And I think that's important because in the world we live in today, if you run up underneath a flag, say you run up underneath the blue flag, and then this person runs up underneath the red flag, and then up underneath the red flag, they believe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the blue flag believes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You may believe in 2 or 3 under the red flag and maybe 4 or 5 under the blue flag, but you want to, you know, you have to look at things in a different perspective because it's too much groupthink. And the problem with that is that it normally does not benefit the masses when they act like sheep. It doesn't benefit you when you act like sheep. It benefits you when you understand what your role is, and then you have a discourse that allows you to come up with a plan versus just a point. So we argue points and we argue opinions the same way we argue facts. And the problem is that because of the emotion, because of the emphasis, you think that that opinion is a fact. And because most of us don't go back and read and do the research because we're busy people, we just go with what we heard, and that's our new truth. And faith cometh by hearing. And if you keep hearing something over and over again, you start like, you know, you get caught in that cycle. You know, not going to be healthy for you, though. It's not going to work out for you because you now set yourself up to be easily manipulated.
Right, right. Well,
I didn't get too far off with that one.
I definitely appreciate, you know, your insight. Definitely you getting good response. I'm watching some of the comments. People are definitely, you know, definitely supportive of the things that you're saying. So tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. How can we stay connected to you in order to continue to follow through with staying connected with your wisdom?
Let me say before you say connected with the wisdom, I tell my students this. I say one of the best things about me is that I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a whole bunch of the stuff that you shouldn't do. So I'm a pretty good candidate to be able to say, this is why you don't do it, but if you do it, this is how you get out of it. I can help you out. Infinite Think is on Facebook. You can search us for Infinite Think on Facebook. We're Infinite Think on Instagram. My partner, Richard Roundtree, he has Limitless. We are on YouTube at Infinite Think. There's a lot of our podcasts that are on there from previous speakers. There's some great resources on there. I do morning meditations, which is normally just a meme with 4 different quads that kind of set the mindset for the day. I think that's good because it's a quick way to read something, to get an affirmation. It's fast, but it went down into your spirit, and you never know how that's going to come back up throughout the day. We have a great conversation with Dr. Spencer Murray and our Reverend, because this is my neighbor, so I'm always thinking of the street name, and they got to remember his real name. He's a Reverend now. But at any rate, so we got a great conversation there. Please tune in for that one. Please, just the whole thing is that keep doing what you're doing, Kiana. I want to just say to you, when you reached out to me with this opportunity, it just hit because something that when we're talking about what I'm into, one of the things I'm really into is that we have a family of amazing people who now have similar threads of activities. And when we talk about a leader, I go back to when the people were saying, hey, God, we want a leader. And God was like, you don't need a leader. You got me. Just worship me and you don't need that. And they like, no, the Gentiles got a leader. We want one. They gave you Saul, who was crazy as all get out. So the leader that we have is actually our family value systems. Our value is, and although you know how it is with a leader, you have something to attack. But when it's a movement, you can't attack a movement. And it's not with a title that you don't know who's really backing it. It's about family values. So one of the things I'm doing and been doing is really reconnecting our family, looking at a 501c3 for our family, supporting Camp Edison, which is a camp that the family does every year for young people to go down. This year was done virtually, but really being an advocate for anything that's about community, anything that's family, because I believe that's that common denominator. You can argue about you can argue with your neighbor about like Trump, don't like Trump. You can go all day long, but I guarantee you, both of you want lower taxes. I guarantee you, both of you want clean water. I guarantee you, both. If this is your neighbor, you probably want your trash getting picked up. You know, so we began to argue about divisive issues that we really don't even need to talk about. You know, we really need to talk about the stuff that we can actually impact, because we know if we work together, we can impact on a larger level. So these are some of the things I'm working on. And as always, Black Seed Living Bitters, which is an awesome elixir. So throw that out there.
Well, awesome. I appreciate you. You know, you and I have already talked about collaborating on some new things coming forward. I will be continuing the series. This was our kickoff series, so no, I won't be doing 4 days a week straight. I'm probably going to spread them out a little more, maybe do a kind of a once a week or bi-weekly type of situation. But I did get such a response to bring the that were on the lives with me this week, because I got a great response. A lot of people really enjoyed the things that you all had to say, and the things that you want to impart into us. And so I really am grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your wisdom. And anyone else that wants to stay in touch with me, of course, this is my Facebook page. I'm Empowered to Heal _LLC on Instagram. And I'm Kiana_Empower on Twitter. And my website is www.empoweredtoheal.info. And so if you want to check out my website, learn more about me, connect with me, or even see about different services, you are more than welcome. All the links, my website links are on all of my social media pages. So if you don't remember, just look on my profile. So
that's awesome.
Kenya, for your time, we appreciate you. And again, we just really, really enjoyed everything that you had to say and share on tonight, and support Kenya's podcast and his other business ventures. Because like he said, we do come from a really good, strong family background of educators, community leaders, and a lot of other things that we do, entrepreneurs. So we are strong in that regard. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for tuning in, and I love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.